Vladimir Putin's unconscionable invasion of Ukraine has our country talking about how to prevent him and other oil-rich despots like him from committing these heinous acts of aggression in the future. And because Russia's military, economic, and political leverage is funded by fossil fuels, that conversation has focused on one thing: energy. But, as you may have guessed, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm going to try to set the record straight by answering some questions on how we can undercut the power of petro-dictators like Putin and protect the Ukrainian people while ensuring that Americans have dependable, affordable energy. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the big one. How do we stop Putin from doing this again? The simple answer is that we need to transition off of oil and gas. Oil and gas comprise 60% of Russia's net exports, which not only helps fund their military, it gives them enormous leverage over the international community. What that means is that fossil fuels are funding Putin's war crimes against the Ukrainian people. Fossil fuels are funding Putin's assault on democracy. Fossil fuels are funding the demise of post-World War II stability in Europe. There's only one long-term solution: to stop funding oil-rich autocrats and secure energy independence and reliable, affordable energy for Americans, transitioning to 100% clean energy. Question 2, can more drilling in the US or more pipelines help us to depend less on Russia? No. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. Russia is a petrostate. Their power comes from fossil fuels and our world's dependence, you might even call it an addiction, to them. You cannot end a dependence by increasing the supply. Oil and gas are also global commodities. That means their price is set globally, and no amount of increased fossil fuel extraction in the United States can take away Russia's influence on the global energy market. Okay, but what about in the short term? Would expanding oil and gas production help? Again, no, for two reasons. First, oil and gas projects take time to build. The people you hear proclaiming that we can start sending more gas to Europe at the drop of a hat are the fossil fuel industry and the conservative politicians they bankroll trying to take cynical advantage of a tragic situation to line their own pocketbooks. The truth is that it takes years to build the kind of infrastructure we'd need to do that. Since we're already a net exporter of oil and gas, anything we do to increase U.S. production only further increases our exposure to those volatile international markets. Second, as long as we depend on oil, a global commodity, we'll be subject to the wild price fluctuations based on the whims of petro-dictators like Putin. Again, anyone who says otherwise, they're lying to you. Okay, so how do we transition to an efficient, renewable energy economy? Investment. Investment in efficiency, investment in renewables, investment in EVs and electrification. We invest in cheap, clean, reliable energy built right here in America. That sounds good, you say. How do we make these investments? Well, we pass clean energy investments through our Congress. We've already done the work. Lucky for us, there are $555 billion worth of clean energy investments sitting in Congress ready to be passed. We need to get those investments out to our communities so that we can undercut petro-dictators like Putin in the future and insulate Americans against energy price inflation. Bottom line, preventing wars, protecting our national security, both of those things demand investments in clean energy. American energy independence demands investments in clean energy. Lowering energy costs demands investments in clean energy. It's time to stop funding oil-rich autocrats at home and abroad and invest in clean, cheap American energy.